All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, it's just me and Jose. I feel like the last few weeks, we haven't had like a full week of consistent videos with all three of us here. So it's just us two today. Some of you be happy, some of you be mad at us. Brandon will be back here, I would imagine, by the next video. But before we get into it, we just want to say we really appreciate it. We're growing. We're over that 4,200 subscriber mark. We're working our way to 4,300. It's slowed down a little bit, but we've got an ultimate goal of 10,000 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button, help us out, turn the notification bell. Only like 14% of you have that bell turned on. Just hit that button. Let's get up to 20%. And that way you guys can keep up to date with everything that we've got. We've got a great show for you today, a bunch of recruiting and a recent offer. And hit the like button, comment. Follow us on our social medias, like us on Facebook, find us on Apple and Spotify. And that's it. So kind of a little different. Jose and I were talking about it before the show. We're going to do like a beginning of video challenge for some of you that might not be able to sit here and stand us for 30 minutes or have something else to do. We're curious, this podcast has been solely focused on OU football, and every so often we would go into another OU sport, give or take, and we're just curious if you guys would be interested if we talked about general college football. We talked about a little bit of Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban a couple weeks ago, or maybe not even a couple weeks ago, but last week, and so we just had a little bit of that. But we're just curious to see if you guys would like us to talk every so often. We won't go crazy or anything, but would you guys be interested in that? So if you would, just comment below, let us know what you think. We're not going to be really changing the platform of this channel. It's just more of maybe an episode or two here and there about general college football. As far as today's show, we've got, Cole Adams just got offered. Daryl Simpson entering the transfer portal, and then we've got a few guys we want to talk about that have locked in some official visits that are coming up for it's next weekend, June 3rd. Sammy Osamingo, Musa Kane, and Dalen Smothers. So the first guy I think we want to talk about, and I feel like we've been talking about him a lot, and this shouldn't be a shock to really anyone, and it's like about time. It's Cole Adams. Cole Adams got his offer, 5'10", 180-pound wide receiver from Musa, Oklahoma. He's a 2023 four-star, versatile guy, wide receiver, carried the ball, punt returner, kick returner, had over 1,000 yards, over 1,000 total yards, had like 9 touchdowns and some kickoff return touchdowns and various other things. He visited OU on April 19th, and then he just received his offer today as we're recording this, which is Tuesday, May 24th. So for you guys yesterday, he got his offer. It's not really surprising, especially with Ashton Cozart flipping to Oregon like we've been talking about, and we're kind of done talking about Cozart now. I just want to get your initial takeaway on this, and what do you think about Cole Adams?
Finally, the kid has his offer. And I think, it seems like all of OU Twitter was super happy that it finally happened. If Cole Adams commits to Oklahoma, to me, it seems like he's going to be this class's like Jaren Kanak, just the hype around him, the excitement from the fan base is going to be there. We're all going to be extremely high on his potential at Oklahoma, but I think it's, for one, I'm not sure why it took so long for him to get just an offer from this staff. It's not like Cale Gundy has never seen him before. And I know a lot of people have been, I wouldn't say bashing Cale Gundy, but questioning Cale as of recently. And I don't think it's necessarily, it doesn't make sense to question him at this point. I think he is doing something, but it's just we're going to need a lot more patience overall with this staff. And you and I were talking about it because I mentioned recently, I've been a little bit more frustrated with how this recruiting has gone compared to years past. And I understand, completely different staff, completely different philosophy. I think I brought it up in the last video, and some people, agreed with me and some people didn't, which is completely fine. I just think that this staff is overall just being a little too stubborn with the way we're recruiting. We're taking too long to try to get, at least for 2023. I think 2024 and 2025 were already really in a really good position to have great classes for those years. But with 2023, the immediate focus, we're being a little too slow to get in front of some of these players. And I think Cole Adams is like a primary example of this. He is from Oklahoma. It's been something that the staff has been prioritizing, is keeping the in-state kids in the state. And for some reason, he just didn't have an offer for the longest time. I'm glad he finally does. And hopefully we have a chance. I think it's a long shot, to be completely honest. It seems like Alabama has really put an impression on him. He has an official visit lined up with him early in June. And I mean, hopefully he gets to OU before he makes any sort of commitment, because I could see him going to Alabama for that official visit and just committing while he's there, because they've been recruiting him for a while now. They're probably one of the biggest programs that's recruiting him overall, probably the biggest program, and they've had a recent reputation of having really good receivers there. And even if it's the third option on the offense, they're still going to get drafted. Like going to Alabama would not be a bad idea for him. I just think Oklahoma is still going to be a position to make him a number one receiver rather than a 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma, what they've done to themselves, they've made it a lot harder than it should have been. It's just, there's probably more to it. I mean, we're just outsiders looking in. There's probably more to it, and I get it. But the kid grew up an OU fan and all this other stuff, and it wasn't like he's not talented. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world, it seems, and other SEC programs and other schools saw that and offered him a long time ago. They really put themselves behind the 8 ball. The fact that he's got his official set up to Alabama the same weekend of the Champion Barbecue is not great. You're right. I mean, you hope he doesn't commit on the spot. I don't think he will, but the thing is, if he gets there, he has a great impression, and that time starts to go, and he's not coming to OU, on another official visit. I don't know if they're going to do any other, big time recruiting events during the summer for him to take an official on. But the longer it goes after that Alabama official visit, and it keeps in his mind and all this other stuff, but he's not seeing Oklahoma, it just isn't great. But at the end of the day, he's 2.5 hours away, 2.5 hours away. It's an easy drive. He grew up an OU fan. It might end up working out like a Gentry Williams, where we thought Gentry might have been gone, and for a while there, his mind was made up that he was probably going to USC or Florida. And then he started kind of, as the national signing date got closer, he kind of came to his senses and realized he always wanted to be a Sooner. The opportunity to be a Sooner was just too much for him to pass up, and he wanted to stay home. I hope that ends up happening, but there's plenty of cases where we see great players leave the state and they go on to be fantastic players elsewhere. I mean, Dax Hill, Josh Proctor. I mean, and then you can go on. Josh Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs was a little under recruited, but Alabama's got that, Tulsa connection. I mean, it's there. So I don't know. It's something to watch. It's good that they finally offered. I think I did say that, if they don't offer by end of May, Memorial Day weekend, you might as well, the sale, the ship's going to be gone. So they came in last minute, which, I mean, it is what it is. I know the whole deal was Cale Gundy and them and Levy wanted to see him in a practice session and all that other stuff. I get it. And then that's what they did. And they probably went up to Owasso, saw him do it, work out, and they offered him. I get it. But at the same time, probably should have been done 2 months ago. So it is what it is. Something we'll keep an eye on, and you can't do anything about it now. So I'm glad he's got his offer, and we'll just keep an eye on him as the time goes. So just one quick note about some transfer portal news. Daryl Simpson, he was an offensive lineman. He's been at OU for 4 years. I know he played like once last year in the Western Carolina game. He didn't play a whole lot. I believe he graduated. He's entering the transfer portal. I don't blame him. You got your degree, go elsewhere, try to play and potentially play and get a master's degree. I don't blame him. Best of luck to him. It doesn't surprise me because OU is getting down their scholarship number and trying to adjust, and it might have been something that they might have just said, okay, you need to kind of move on a little bit. It might have been mutually decided. So
Yeah. Best of luck to that guy. But I mean, he's got good size, so I think wherever he goes, he'll be well utilized. I don't know if it'll be a big Power 5 program. We'll just have to see where he ends up.
yeah. So best of luck to him. Glad he got his degree. That's honestly the most important thing, because 99% of these guys aren't going to go be playing at the professional level. So good for him. Best of luck. So we'll move on to some recruiting. Like we talked about in the beginning, we've got 3 guys we're going to talk about. The first guy, and again, sometimes I butcher names. I believe you say his name, Musa Kane. He's a 6'1" safety. He weighs about 175 pounds, from Blairstown, New Jersey. He's a 2023 3-star, number 690 overall, number 60 safety in the class. He recently put out his top 3 of Oklahoma, Penn State, and Duke. And just he's got his official visit set up with Oklahoma on June 3rd. He's got an official setup with Penn State on the 10th of June, and he doesn't have an official setup with Duke quite yet, but I get the sense that Duke is in it because, I mean, at the end of the day, who wouldn't want a degree from Duke? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, I might be a homer, but sometimes you have to be realistic. I mean, Duke's a prestigious school, but I don't really see them being a huge threat. It's a new staff. They had a really down year. I don't know. I don't see them being a big issue. I see Oklahoma and Penn State as his top 2, really. I just get the feel that Oklahoma will recruit him and will keep talking with him. But I feel like at the safety spot, we've talked about a lot of safeties they're targeting in this 2023 class. There's a lot of talent, there's a lot of kids, and there's very few spots. I don't see Kane being the guy that they would take in June. I see him potentially being, added to the class in November. That's just kind of the feel I get. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you made a good point, but with this staff, again, with it being their process being so different from the past, and just thinking about the way that the quarterback recruiting was handled with, and I mentioned it a couple of videos ago, I think, between Arnold and Jaden. It was just the first person to visit and make the commitment to Oklahoma, because once this staff expects that once you make the commitment, you are 100% committed. So I mean, if they offered him and he's got the possibility and he likes Oklahoma and he's going to be one of those guys that once he commits, he's 100% in, I could see them just going ahead and saying, yeah, we'll come on in. Well, if you're 100% committed to us, we're going to be 100% committed to you. And we're going to develop you to be, hopefully a really productive part of this team at the safety position, because the safety position, we've talked about it over and over. It's still pretty thin, especially once we get past next year. More than likely losing Key Lawrence, Trey Morrison, I don't believe will be there anymore. It'll be a lot of young people, a lot of young guys, trying to get the starting safety spots. So it wouldn't hurt to bring in maybe 1 or 2 extra recruits at that position than we normally would or normally will be in the future, since it's so thin now. But, I think that if it's in the scenario that you're going with, then we're going to be put in a situation where he might be going to Penn State, because Penn State, their defense is decent usually, and it wouldn't be a bad choice for him. Also a good school. Like the football environment, just talking about that is electric, especially when it's a whiteout game. So it wouldn't be a bad decision for him. I just think that if he's going to be a guy that wants to be a Sooner, this staff might just take him and expect, like I said, him to be 100% committed, and he might be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it very well might end up being that way. I just see him as OU's going to need a lot of help or a lot of depth that can contribute immediately. I don't know, and I would sit here and say I'm totally wrong if he commits and then he plays his freshman year, and I'll eat my words. But I feel like he's more of a guy that would need a year, a couple years coaching, working out, and conditioning, and all that stuff. And I think he can be a really good player. And there'd be nothing wrong with taking his commitment and doing that. I just feel like OU's is in a great spot with multiple players at the safety spot. And I think they could end up filling that safety room with guys that might commit or might compete or contribute year one, compared to maybe what Kane would do. But I might be wrong. I'll eat my words if he does prove me wrong. I would not be upset. So that's just my gut, with Brandon Hall and what they're kind of rolling with. So it's just good to get him on campus at the end of the day. He's in New Jersey. It's still a far ways away, and you had him come on campus in March. The fact that you're getting him to come back, and you make his top 3 with only one visit is pretty impressive. So I do get the sense that I think Penn State is the leader, because he was there last fall. He went in January, and now he's going back in June. It's just New Jersey to Pennsylvania is a lot easier than New Jersey to Oklahoma. I mean, it just is. So I agree. I see him more probably a Penn State guy than committing to Oklahoma, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think being coached by Brandon Hall, I think he was, in regards to development, he might be one of the better guys, maybe number 2 to Todd Bates, and how he's developed players over his coaching career. And I mean, maybe Brandon Hall, if Kane decides to be a Sooner, maybe Brandon Hall can transform him into just an all-around safety that can play safety, that can play strong or free. I think that's what this recruiting philosophy seems to be going after. I mentioned it in the last video, just, we need you to be flexible. We need you to be able to change and modify as the situation changes with both the roster and in the game, because the game is unpredictable. You never really know what's happening, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So you need to be able to adapt and conquer each situation that you're put in. And I think, Brandon Hall is going to be a guy that will definitely get the safety position figured out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's in a lot better of a spot than what it has been recently as far as the coaching quality. So we'll move on to the next guy. Again, I think I'm saying his name right. Sometimes I swear I just butcher names like no other. Samuel Osamingo. He's 6'1" linebacker, 208 pounds, from Crandall, Texas, 2023. He's a 3-star, 517 overall, and number 44 athlete in the class. He has released his top 10. That includes Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, Nebraska, TCU, USC, Oklahoma State, SMU, Auburn, and Ole Miss. So quite a list of programs that he has up in his top 10. He seems to be at least from what he's given, like the persona that he's really open to all these schools. He only has official visits set up with Florida and Oklahoma. And it seems like OU and Florida are his top 2 schools, really, the top 2 within the top 10. Not saying that one of these other schools can't come in and really, impact him and really convince him to commit to him, or really his interest starts to change. I just feel like the OU is in the driver's seat. I did see that Parker Thune put in a crystal ball for him. He's coming up for his June 3rd Champ U barbecue. I believe he's been on campus a couple of times prior. I feel like if he wants to commit on the spot, I think OU's taking him. I think OU's in a really good spot. The linebacker spot is one of those areas that we need athletes, and this kid's an athlete, and you have to take what you can get right now in this 23 class. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm confident that we are more in the lead with Samuel than we would be with Kane, because of the proximity and how much easier it is for him to visit Oklahoma and for the coaches to go down to Texas and visit his high school. So I think he's a guy that if he does commit, it's going to be important. It's going to be big time. And Ted Roof is doing a hell of a job at recruiting the linebacker position. I think that in the defensive line group is being recruited probably the 2 best positions for the 2023 class. Focusing on just the 23 class alone, overall, I'm not gonna say struggling, but it's definitely not. I think the expectations of where we want to end and how the recruiting looks like now, there's definitely a disparity there. But Roof and Bates are doing a hell of a job in getting in front of recruits, getting recruits to really consider playing on this defense. And I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't think Ted Roof had this in him as a position coach. I knew like Venables believes in him, and I understand that a lot of people are going to say, trust the process, you got to trust the coaching staff. I'm not saying I don't, but Ted Roof kind of seemed to be an out of nowhere hire compared to the other guys on the defensive side of the ball in regards to the assistant coaches. But he's doing a hell of a job. I'm starting to really like Coach Roof a lot more as days go on, and I really believe that he's going to be really impactful to how the defensive game plan is going to be put together, and how recruiting more athletic linebackers, like we've seen just in the 2022 class with Kanik, Kobe, and Kip. Like these guys are extremely athletic dudes, and I think Sam could be a big addition to this next class, even if he's not as highly rated as some of the other linebackers are going after.
Yeah, and I mean, I looked it up just to double check. He did come up for junior day in March, so he's been on campus. He got his offer in November. Florida offered last month, and they're getting an official on June 24th. So this is an OU Florida battle. I feel like this is really starting to heat up between OU and Florida. They're recruiting from the same type of players. I mean, it seems like OU Florida, OU Ohio State, OU Alabama, and OU Texas. That's really seems to be the common opponent in recruiting anymore as of recent. So Florida's doing a great job. He also competes in track and field. He runs relays and all this other stuff. So he's an extremely athletic guy. Someone I'd be very happy if OU could end up closing out and adding him to the class. So something to watch. I feel like he'd be the one that would commit sometime late this summer.
You know what all of those schools, other than Oklahoma and Ohio State, have? Alabama, Texas, and Florida. Somehow they're all connected to Nick Saban. Obviously, Nick Saban is at Alabama, but Napier worked for Saban. Sark worked for Saban. Like, we're Venables. I think that's something that we should be happy about. Like, Venables is taking I guess an Alabama type way of recruiting the type of player he wants at Oklahoma. I know when you look at when Venables first got hired on, a lot of people were saying that he, at least in the administrative world, seemed like they were saying this is like probably the closest that you're going to get in personality to Saban, and it seems to be true so far. Like they're very exciting coaches to play for, it seems like. And again, the way that the type of player that they're recruiting is all very similar, with being huge and very athletic. Because in the past, Oklahoma was going after whatever size you could be, even if it was tiny like Bookie. No offense to that guy, but just fast. Fast was priority number one, and the rest kind of fell way further behind.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the truth. And you want to talk about the connection to Alabama, with OU is it immediately comes to my mind is that turnip seed. I mean, obviously Jay Valai is there as well, but turnip seed is really, I think a lot of people don't realize, and I'm sure a lot of people, but he is what OU to do when he's coming. He's really incredible. Like as far as impactful, what this program is going to turn out to be, it's going to be like Alabama. And as much as we don't care for Alabama, why wouldn't you want to be like them? Because they win all the time.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
So, yeah. And then the last guy we're going to talk about is Dalen Smothers. Man, I'm struggling today. I don't know what it is. He's a 2023 4-star, number 266 overall, number 17 running back in the class. He's 5'11", 182 pounds, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So a little bit of a different region in the country. We don't seem to recruit heavily out of North Carolina or South Carolina. I think the guy that comes to my mind that OU recruited out of Carolinas is Austin Kendall. I remember him coming out of one of the Carolinas, I believe. I might be dreaming that. But OU, they are recruiting hard for Smothers. Adrian Peterson's even recruiting him. Uh, I feel like OU is they're gonna have a hard time selling a 2023 kid. This guy is incredible. I mean, 1,700 yards or more, in his junior season, 30 touchdowns. He's a two-time state of North Carolina player of the year. He's a terrific athlete. It seems like it's OU, Florida State, Penn State for him at this point. I believe he's coming on campus. Yeah, he's visiting the week of June 3rd, so he's coming on campus for his official visit. I feel like OU's in a really good spot, but I think what OU's running into and why I think OU lost out on Trey Wisner is because this class that OU got in the 2022 and how young and how stacked the running back room is starting to look. I think a lot of kids are starting to look elsewhere. And I think they're going to have a little bit of a harder time selling multiple kids in the 23 class. I don't think they're going to have any issue in the 24 class. I hope that OU can get Smothers, but I don't know. I'm really questioning how highly rated of a kid that OU is going to get in the 2023 class.
Personally, I hope that we can land Dalen just by watching last year's his highlight tape from last year. The dude finds the hole extremely fast and then attacks it, and he will take off. Just if you guys can go watch 24/7 highlight tape from his junior year, he had over 1,700 yards, 30 total touchdowns, and it seemed like every time he touched the ball, it was going to the house. Every single time. I don't think I saw one player get near to actually tackling him. And if they did, it wasn't an easy task for them to do it. And again, that's at the high school level. So I understand he's just a man amongst boys in some situations, but he's explosive. He's got the speed. He can find the hole, which I think he's got the vision. I think that's half the battle when you're running back. If you can't find the openings that your offensive line is creating for you, you're not going to be a very good running back unless you can just somehow plow through the entire offensive and defensive line, which it doesn't happen very often. So, and it's cool that Adrian Peterson is getting involved in the recruiting of this guy. I mean, you have two of the best Oklahoma running backs and maybe two of the best overall college running backs recruiting you. It's going to be hard to say no to both of those guys. And one of them, you can argue, is probably the best running back in football history, or one of the best football running backs in football history, in Adrian Peterson. So if you can say no to that, I mean, good on you. But I don't think I could say no to AD and DeMarco trying to recruit me to, and especially learning from DeMarco and hopefully getting the opportunity to every once in a while be in a camp with AD there to mentor me.
Yeah. I mean, and part of the issue is we're going to run into is OU just offered in late March. And I believe that's around the time that Wisner pulled the trigger and committed to Texas. So they, obviously the boat has sailed, they give an offer, and Smothers schedules his official visit, which is great. But he's out in North Carolina. How many times are you going to be able to get him back on campus? He's already used an official visit. Are you going to be able to get him back out on campus? Because I'm just looking through his timeline. He's been on North Carolina State's campus multiple times. I mean, obviously, it's NC State. It's not that far from him. He's been on Florida State's campus quite a few times. He's been to Tennessee quite a few times. I just think that OU is, while the kid's really good, and I'm not questioning, I just don't think there's enough time. And I might be totally wrong. And maybe I'm being negative Nancy tonight. I don't know. But I just feel like they could hit a home run out of the park, and that's great. But can the kid, his family or him, be able to afford to come out one or two more times between, June 3rd and early National Signing Day? OU can go visit him, no big deal. But getting him back on campus one or two more times, I think, is critical. Because NC State, South Carolina, Florida State, Tennessee, they're all driving distance for him. And I guess OU could be driving distance if you really wanted it to be, but it's not realistic, really, for a weekend trip. So I just think that's going to be part of the issue that OU is going to run into. And hopefully they hit a home run out of the park with him, and that he wants to come back so bad that he's willing to, make ends meet and come out one or two more times. If you see him try to make another visit, it's good. It's a good thing. But I just really wonder if they're really far behind the eight ball with him.
I think that's going to be a theme for probably a lot of guys that we're going to talk about for the rest of the summer is can OU climb in these players' minds, because we are behind the eight ball for a lot of these guys and creating the relationships that they've already had with other schools. But I think for the most part, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think we'll be fine there. I think it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. I trust DeMarco in being able to continue building the running back room. My questioning is going to be, can Lebby sell the rest of it? Or I guess DeMarco and Coach B, those guys I think will secure their guys that they need and that they want. It's going to be, can Lebby sell the vision to these recruits? Because it's not, again, the position coach I believe is going to be the most important guy in recruiting, but Lebby is also part of it. He's going to be the guy calling the plays. And if you can't sell these players on you're going to be an important part to this offense and you're going to be producing at a high level, then that's when we're going to be, struggling a little bit to get in their minds. And a lot of this can be resolved through, having an actual season of his offense, but they have to see it at Oklahoma. They've only seen it at Ole Miss. And, who knows how much is going to be transferred over to OU for next season.
Yeah, that's the key is just this fall is going to be huge as far as where OU finishes in the 2023 class ranking. It could be 10 to 15 if OU has a okay year, or if they have a great year and go win a Big 12 championship and compete for a national title or go play in a New Year's Six Bowl, it could be 5 to 10. I really think depending on how the OU Texas game goes, because every year that either team wins the Golden Hat, it seems like they get one or two of the battle a lot of times. You go play in a New Year's Six Bowl or even compete in the playoffs, people are going to buy it, and people will know that going in an early national signing day, that you're competing for the Big 12 championship and more. I really think they just want to see it, and I agree with you. It's just. And I think they will. I think OU is going to compete for the Big 12 championship and can compete maybe even for a national title. I'm not saying that those are my expectations, but they should win the Big 12. They really should. So if they do that, they handle their business, I think the recruits are going to come, and then Lebby's not going to have to sell himself to anyone. Not that he's having to do it, but it's just that final, like just over the hump, like what Lincoln Riley, once he started producing, I mean, it was offensive guys were lining up like crazy, and that's what will happen with Lebby. So, do you have any final thoughts or anything like that?
Nope. I think we covered it all. We were maybe a little negative today, but I feel like rightly so. It's the 2023 class right now seems a little bit, I feel like it seems like we're struggling a little bit, but I think you mentioned it early before we started recording. This philosophy seems to be very similar to Clemson's, and Clemson can go most of the year being in like the 30s, and then that week or two before the national signing day, they'll jump up to the top 15, top 10. So I think that's what we're going to be struggling with as fans, with not getting these big recruits right now. But once we get to that November, December time, that's when we'll see the big jumps in our recruiting ranking.
And we won't have to really be sweating if guys are going to flip commitments, probably 99% of the time, because they're going to be committing within the last, few months before. Mm-hmm. Guys are not going to be committed for that long, and they're going to be locked in. So it's just different, something to definitely keep an eye on. And, our beginning of video and end of video challenge is going to be the same. If you made it this far, let us know if you'd like us to talk a little more general college football every so often. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, turn the notification bell, and find us on our social medias and Apple and Spotify, and everything's linked below. And we will catch you Friday.